So as bad as the July 3rd speech at Mount Rushmore was for Donald Trump, and certainly the July 3rd speech contained way more verbal glitches. It was what we're calling benzodiazepine Trump. I previously referred to it as downer Trump. Sometimes we say Ambien Trump. The July 4th speech on the lawn of the White House was absolutely terrifying. And Donald Trump actually taking some of the same ideas from July 3rd about we're fighting Marxists here in the United States, and actually building on them in an even more cartoonish and dystopian way. Trump's big messages recycled things from the previous night were essentially, we have agitators and looters and anarchists and Marxists that we are fighting against.
We are now in the process of defeating the radical left, the Marxists, the anarchists, the agitators, the looters, and people who, in many instances, have absolutely no clue what they are doing.
What Marxists are we fighting? Like, please find me an actual Marxist with any power whatsoever that Donald Trump is fighting against. I tweeted yesterday, preparing for this segment, can someone send me the name of a specific powerful Marxist that Trump is fighting against? And someone sent me an article about some Black Lives Matter person is a, quote, trained Marxist. I had never heard of her. And with all due respect, it's not someone who is in any way wielding any amount of power that would be comparable to what Donald Trump has with the bully pulpit. Like, if that's the woman that Trump is fighting when he says we are fighting Marxists, then it's a really weird fight for Trump to actually have to wage. Now, there were also no shortages of glitches. Here's Donald Trump struggling to say sweeping, says swip, swiffing, sift, swift, completely incoherent. Again, this was tweeted widely with people saying, wait, people are saying Biden has dementia. How do you explain this? Take a look.
They delivered a swift and sweeping, you know that sweeping. It was swift and it was sweeping like nobody's ever seen anything happen.
Just barely able to get the words out, white knuckling the lectern, engaged in a battle to the death with his own tongue, all really, really wacky. Now, eventually he got to the point in his 4th of July speech where he just lists historical figures. He did this July 3rd and Mount Rushmore, already played that for you. Here is Donald Trump just listing historical figures on his July 4th speech. And the crowd sort of actually does start clapping. I guess it was the most exciting thing that Trump said.
George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Betsy Ross, Alexander Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, James Madison, Dolly Madison, the great Frederick Douglass.
How weak are these applause lines, right? Just listing people for the crowd to clap. And it went on like that for a while. I don't want to subject you to the entire thing. Another really strange applause line was when Trump mentioned that the virus came from China. People just starting to clap at the mention of that fact. Take a look.
But there and then, we got hit by the virus that came from China. And we've made a lot of progress. Our strategy is moving along well.
Now, I don't at this point want to spend a ton of time on the China stuff. The real message here is what a deranged 4th of July speech. But it is interesting how in these China discussions, it's never mentioned that China was the source of the virus for every country. Like, if the virus originated in China, Spain was dealing with a virus that came from China. Italy dealt with a virus that came from China. New Zealand dealt with a virus that came from China. So the fact that it came from China doesn't change that just about every other country dealt with the virus better than the United States. Okay, Brazil is a disaster. India and Russia are not doing well. I've heard of some small countries that are not doing well. But the fact that it came from China, how does that even bear applause? And of course, it has no bearing on the fact that Trump completely failed in terms of his dealing with the virus. But I don't want to focus too much on the virus today. But again, Donald Trump, during his 4th of July speech, goes into the only reason we have so many cases is because we have so much testing.
Likewise, testing. There were no tests for a new virus, but now we have tested almost 40 million people. By so doing, we show cases, 99% of which are totally harmless, results that no other country can show because no other country is testing that we have, not in terms of the numbers or in terms of the quality.
Remember, we've got to fact check it. Trump says 99% of cases aren't harmful. That's not true. Seems that the death rate is about 1%, but that doesn't mean 99% are harmful. Many more people are ending up in the hospital. We still have questions about the long-term health effect, even in people who do recover. So that's wrong. Our testing per capita is still just 26th in the world. Our deaths per capita are the 9th highest in the world out of more than 200 countries and territories that have cases. So the narrative continues to be completely untrue, but his followers love it and they fall for it. And then sort of to wrap up the 4th of July speech, just one more clip. Here is Trump saying that the media slanders him when they accurately report that something he said was either racist or xenophobic.
These are great heroes. Let me also say a word to those in the media who falsely and consistently label their opponents as racists, who condemn patriotic citizens, who offer a clear and truthful defense of American unity. That's what our people are doing. We want a clear and faithful defense of American history, and we want unity. When you level these false charges, you not only slander me, you not only slander the American people, but you slander generations of heroes who gave their lives for America.
This is just hilariously and laughably nonsensical. When you call Trump out for doing something racist, you are slandering the troops that served in the military in all of American history, is what Trump is saying. When you point out Trump did something racist, you are disrespecting people who served in World War II and Vietnam. Like, how does that even compute? And that's what Trump is trying to convince people of. And sadly, it works. I tweeted yesterday that this will work on some of his followers. A bunch of people responded saying, David, you're wrong. This will work on most of his followers. From the rally, at least, it seemed that that did resonate with people. When the media calls Trump racist, they are disrespecting the troops. If you convince people of that in Orwellian fashion, it's almost more reminiscent of the Testaments and, oh my God, what is Margaret Atwood's first book? Before the Testaments, The Handmaid's Tale. It's more reminiscent of the type of propaganda you see depicted by Margaret Atwood in Handmaid's Tale and the Testaments. And it's working on his followers, which is why, even though the polls look good for Joe Biden, I know it's going to be an uphill battle going into November. We'll have continued coverage of this on the David Pakman Show Instagram page at David Pakman Show for pictures of me at the beach, which are triggering men and women alike for very different reasons. Follow me on Instagram at david.pakman. I'm half kidding, but I'm not kidding that we'll be right back in 2 minutes.